Okay, greetings everyone. Welcome to Gerard, Black in the Philippines with the Truth. Living inside of a culture. I want to welcome you to my channel. I want to thank all my subscribers, all my let me check this dude out, all my scallywags, all my peaches, triggers, commenters, haters. Each and every one of you are important to me. And I'm happy that you've taken this time to join me on my YouTube channel. You know, um, living with Filipino children, I've been trying to search a way to try to bond with them. You know, I've I regret not learning how to play basketball good. Because basketball is what Filipinos do very, very well and very, very often. I remember when I was in elementary school in North Carolina, I was on the basketball team. And because it was so far away, and my grandmother had to drive me to practice, that she couldn't do it anymore. She couldn't keep driving me because it was so far. So, ergo, I had to drop out of the basketball team. But it's not because I didn't try. I remember living in Riverside Park in Manhattan, playing with Harry Belafonte's kids and Joanne Woodward, Paul Newman's kids. I tried playing, but it turned out to be it was just more fun watching. Not that I ever developed into an avid basketball spectator. That didn't grow in me either. But I struggled to try to bond with them. Someone suggested, Gerard, maybe you should cook with them. Maybe you should cook a meal with them. Maybe have them make pizza or have them make a breakfast or try to bond with them that way. There have been a number of suggestions to me about how to best bond with my boys. I first started teaching martial arts, and that faded away mostly because I'm very lazy, on my part. But there've been a number of suggestions that what did someone else suggest? Um, I, you know, I, they just don't. But what I want to tell you that what I decided to do was have a family movie night on Friday nights, and I thought this would be terrific for the whole family, for us to come together, sit around, and watch a movie. And they liked the idea. They liked the idea of of, of watching movies. Watching a movie. So the first Friday night that we did, said, "What do you want to watch?" I was trying to find Old Yeller, something with a dog or something like this in it because they were so into the dogs. Which reminds me, now we're walking the dogs together, which is good. That's another small way of bonding with them, walking the dogs, although it drives me crazy. you know, you know. But anyway, gradually things are like that. But anyway, then when I want to watch a horror movie, horror movie. But anyway, last night was Friday night. And so Raphael, the oldest one, I know, he is. Hold on a second. I didn't set my timer, so let me get my timer together. Because I don't want to go too far over the time. Okay, let's not watch. Stop. Stop. Reset. Okay. I don't want to go too far over my time, so anyway, the oldest boy, Raphael, doing his classwork, I noticed that he's learning about Filipino history. He's learning about some of the founders of the Philippines who were heroes or who stood out in the history for their contribution in making the Philippines an independent country. So I thought maybe I asked him. I said, "Look, So I googled shows that you know, um, you know, who were the first people in the Philippines. You know, um, the Japanese invading the Philippines, the Americans, uh, coming to the rescue of the Philippines. And, he jumped at the opportunity to want to learn more, which leads me to believe that Raphael is very smart. Raphael he's hungry for knowledge. He's one of those people who I can honestly say has no common sense, but is book smart. you know, you know. But so we watched about how the Filipino people came here, how mostly Filipinos were all migrants from other areas of the world, and how they mingled together and eventually, kind of developed, their own, social structure. Some migrated other parts, and there go you have a lot of different languages. The Philippines have over 200 languages, and mostly because they're of just that. And then how the Spanish had come, and the Spanish was trying to force its Christianity on them, and I think they fought for like 200 years or something like this. I couldn't believe the long period of time that the Spanish fought the Filipinos. There was a Spanish War, and it wasn't that they were fighting the whole Philippines. They were just fighting this one section of Philippines who stood up and put up a fight. And although they weren't as equipped with them, they put up a hell of a fight. And how the Spaniards came here because they were looking for spices. I don't know, I think it was cinnamon. They came looking for spices. And this was the main reason why the Spaniards were here. And so when the Spaniards have decided that, look, we're never going to win this war. So, and the mother country, Spain, has said, look, we're not putting any more resources in there because, to what avail? It's just not working out for us. So what the Spaniards decided to do was to turn it over to the Americans. And, so that's what happened when the Americans came in. And the funny thing about the Americans came in, now remind you that the Filipinos were looking to have their own independence. Not knowing it was independence, they just wanted to be left alone, And the Chinese came through, the Japanese came through. A lot of people came through and mingled with them whereas the Filipino, race is diluted somewhat, whereas and this is why the Filipinos are very much on a lower level when it comes to Asians. So anyway, so the Americans came in, but when the Americans were trying to formulate a constitution for the Philippines, it excluded the Filipinos. They had no say in it. In other words, they came here, to form a government for the Filipino people without the Filipinos, and this was very frustrating to the Filipinos. So they have another war, with the Americans because of what happened, and as a result, a lot of Americans, had turned and fought against the Americans. We spoke about this before, and it wasn't until I think it was MacArthur or someone like this said, "Look, this is not a fight that we want to be in. This is not a fight that we want to continue. So why don't we just teach you how to govern yourself?" And that's what the Americans did for the Philippines. It taught them how to formulate their own government and how to govern themselves. So, and the reason why the Americans wanted the Philippines, because it was a strategic move. They wanted to have, the capability to be able to launch warfare with other countries if they need to. The Philippines was a good stepping off point. So, but before then, the Japanese came, and the Japanese, the Japanese really did a horrible deal. But the point of the matter is that, what we watched was cultural, and what we watched was educational, what we watched was beneficial. What we watched was something that, now, I believe that when you're watching programs, especially with young minds, that you pause it. And you pause it and you have a conversation about whatever's happening or what's being said or what words they didn't understand that was describing something, a situation, and that becomes even makes the program, a lot more entertaining, and so a lot more education, a lot more informative. And so, I did that on several occasions and it worked out fine, like guerrilla warfare, explaining that to them. And, there was a scene when the Japanese was, when American prisoners were in prison and they had like a board of Japanese generals and all this stuff in their uniform, the Americans in their uniform, and the Japanese is like, sitting there like a Hogan's Hero type of thing, and the Americans are somewhat, trying to talk to the Japanese, and I explained to them what the Geneva Convention was. How the Geneva Convention is a set of standards that came about to make sure that fair treatment was happening to prisoners of war. Being like you couldn't do certain things, or they were entitled to have certain things, and I said this is what you're seeing. You're seeing the Americans on this side, the Japanese on this side, and they're sitting at this table, and you could tell from the demeanor that the Japanese had the upper hand. And I told them, chances are that's what the Americans were doing. We either complaining about not getting enough soap, or not having much time writing material, or whatever it was that they felt that they were being denied that was illegal under the Geneva Convention. So explaining that to them was also a treat in my eyes to explain to them. But the point of the matter is, it's like, you know, I don't give up. They're trying to bond with them. Yeah, Michael Chris is still young, but Michael Chris and I, we have our a special kind of relationship. Like, I kind of get the idea that he's a little infatuated with his body, and so sometimes I catch him. I catch him, and so and he's very shy about it like this, and I had to take him and sit him down. I said, Michael Chris, never be ashamed of your body. Your body is something beautiful. Your body is something that you should, not want to hide, or be ashamed of, and you discovering your body is only natural, And after going through, what all I went through and everything, there was a change in him. I'm not saying he's sitting on the couch like this, but there was a change in him, and my, taking the time to recognize, first of all, that he was going through a phase in his life that he needs some explanation of why he was feeling the way he was. To me was crucial. It's not going about teaching them about the birds and the bees. It's not that. First, you have to identify of who you are. You have to make awareness of what you are, and you have to understand that your body is your body. It always kind of, why are you two always taking showers together? Yeah, but then, as much as I say, in the other place they use up so much water, but here, no, just let them go, they want to take showers together, whatever, as long as it's not with the housekeeper, so anyway, so I wanted to pass that on to you about your mind, you know, um, uh, having movie night. I finally found something that we can look forward to doing, and we enjoyed it. So yeah, so we learned about the Filipino country. We learned about the Filipino people, and how the Philippines became the Philippines. Now, what I want to talk about is, what about your friends? You know, how good of a friend are you uh, to someone you call your friend? Let me explain. Um, you know someone. Let me speak a bit about in a hypothetical situation. So this way, no toes are stepped on like this, or I'm taking from here, taking from there, or feel that they might identify themselves in this video, but it's not that at all. This is a hypothetical situation. Okay. Let me make that. Let me make that perfectly clear. That's Richard Nixon for those of you who don't know. So anyway, suppose you have a friend who's married. Uh, of course, we're in the Philippines, so we're talking about foreigner. We're talking about a foreigner marrying a Filipino. And you know for a fact that let me say, his Filipina is, you know, not faithful. You know, but yet and still, you keep them as your friend. You keep them as your friend, and you know, and you go there, and in the back of your mind, what's going on, and it's like, do you tell him? Do you say, hey, yo? uh, uh, and I always say you never come between a man and his woman because she's gonna side with him all the time. You know. But here, like, I spoke on this once before. You know, it's very dangerous here in the Philippines to interfere with another man's livelihood. You know, to take away or be the cause of him losing something can be a death sentence. One of my commenters had spoke to me, and I try to find his comment, and he said to me, he said, he says, you don't know the real story about Filipino men and relationship with women. And he said that Filipino women will tolerate a whole lot that they would never tolerate with a foreigner. He gave examples. He says that she would tolerate his drinking. She would tolerate his womanizing. She would tolerate him having another family. And she would tolerate all this, you know, and that's in the culture. And he said, but if a foreigner was to exhibit any of these characteristics, it would never work. It would never work. And it's interesting that he pointed that out because to some degree, it stands to be reasoned that it's true. You know, you know, getting back to this scenario I'm telling you about. And now one day, you're out and about and you run into her. You run into her with her dun dun. You introduce yourself, hi, I'm so and so, and I'm so and so like this. And now you're almost friends with him too. It's like you know, you know. I got to be cordial. I'm not going to say leave her alone. She's married like this, like that. And it's what would you do in this scenario? I mean, you know him, the one who's married, the foreigner, and you know him, her side piece, Pinoy, Filipino, and it's like, wow. But does it make you think that you know that you feel that you should say something? But anyway, I want to throw that scenario out there and throw that little story out there because you know that scenario happens a lot of times here in the Philippines. You know, um, you know, and it's unfortunate, but be it as it may, each man has his own. Me personally, in my relationship, since me and I have moved here to this new house, we each have our own newfound freedom. She's able to go and come as she wants. I'm able to go play tennis, and I have three tennis courts that I play at, and I move around, and yeah, I see some people who I used to see when I lived in this area before, and so it's nice. You know, do I worry about her? You know, uh, knowing where her duck and fucks might be. Uh, no, no. And I'm not going to worry. Because you know, I feel that you have a lot to lose than I do. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I just got to get just another JJ on tap. What you have to lose is tremendous, you know, and can be horrendous in your life. So for that security I feel because of that, and me personally, I've I've never worried about a woman straying on me. Why? Because I always knew beforehand when it was going to happen, or when it was time for her to, or when it's just time to let's stop this relationship. You know? So anyway, I guess I'm happy. I am happy. I am at peace, and I am very grateful and very blessed for me to sit here in my home. This is not a house. This is a home again. I have a home all my life. I never lived in a home. I lived in a house. A house with four walls. That just kept the outside debris from blowing in because it wasn't a home inside. It was always turmoil, always this or that, fighting, drinking, and all that stuff like this. And that can never be a home. But here, I have a home. And for those of you who want to worry about me, or don't, 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 know that I am happy here in the Philippines. I never could have made a better decision for my own life. I always say that everything that happens to me has been my fault. And I have no regrets because every negative, every decision I made the decision. You know? So I have no regrets. Going to prison, drugs, whatever. I made the decision to do that. It's not like, it's so anyway, be that as it may, man. You know, how do they say it? I'm happy that a maggot in a shit house. With that being said, you're watching Gerard Black in the Philippines with the truth. Don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell, share, like, and leave a comment. And remember, dreams are nothing more than plans awaiting action. Never disrespect the elderly, always pulls them up. And sometimes you'll be the only one to see your vision. And the best revenge in life is to live good. And if you're lucky enough to have a woman like Ollie Woodson, former lead singer of The Temptations, and one son, treat her like a lady. And ladies, if you're lucky enough to have a man like me, make him feel like a king. The reason I'm hesitating because I'm thinking, I know, maybe I get Raphael how to do magic because I think he's fascinated with magic. But you know what? If you plan on coming to the Philippines, practice on your yo-yo. Learn to do yo-yo tricks. All the kid games that you've done as a child, especially if you're with a Filipino with kids and you want to bond with them, hang out with them. Learn some of the things that what you did as a child because they would appreciate. Okay, so remember, I'll always love you more, and I'm living inside of the culture. I'll talk to you later. Peace.